we're a planetary health organization. That's our focus. So all of this, it's all one, right? We can have all these arms like we have in science, biology, chemistry, all of this. But when it comes down to it, it's all a study of one science, which is a study of being. So in essence, the way I've set up Urban GreenWorks is for us to be able to address all the issues, all the, what they call them, social determinants of health, right? What are all of those issues that are affecting our health, our lifestyle? And it could be housing, it could be things. We don't address them all, but down the road somewhere, hopefully we'll have the funding or we'll have the collaborative partnerships. We've moved from more of a focused South Florida perspective to a more regional and global perspective. Within the next couple of years, next 2 years, hopefully, we're looking to have more regional arms across the country and maybe a couple more branches, and you'll see how it works out. But the idea is that there'll be Urban GreenWorks Global, and then there'll just be Urban GreenWorks in the regional ends, and then maybe just an Urban GreenWorks national, like Urban GreenWorks will become the national arm, and then they'll just become a global arm. We'll see how that pays out and how it works.
Why does help for a community need to come from the inside, not the outside?
First of all, don't stay outside of the community. One of the things you see is that you see a lot of folks say, I'm working in such and such community, but you're really not. You're working on the outside of it, the main vein where most of those people in the community hardly go anyway, you know, but it's still considered in the community because it's right on the boundary line. Folks have to get into the heart of the communities and stop having this stigma that you get on the news. You have to have it. Remember from before, you got to have the stigma because that's where the job comes from. Without the stigma, we ain't got no job. So when folks come in, I tell them, stop. Let all that stuff that you have in your mind go. And it's funny because some of the groups now come in and do exactly that, and they meditate for 5 minutes. And the idea is just to listen, close your eyes and listen. What's different from this than in your community? You hear anything different? You know, and once they start getting on that level, then they start getting more comfortable. And the idea is don't come in trying to fix something. And my thing is, what is it that you have that you want to do for yourself? What is it? Why is you here? You didn't decide one morning, Saturday, when you could, you know, when you could be out with your family that you wanted to come into Liberty City and work with Urban GreenWorks. Something motivated you to come here. Why? And that's what I want to know. I don't want to know what you think you're going to do and what miracle you're going to achieve in the 1 hour that you're here taking pictures for Instagram. I want to know why you're here, really. And then once I figure out why you're here, then I'm going to put you to work on that. I want to figure out what your skill is. What do you do as a job? So most of the time, volunteers, I'm trying to get to know them, trying to get to know how their family is, how many, you know, how that relationship is going along. Are you happy? I'm trying to get personal with the volunteer, you know, and what their education is, what they're doing now. Do they like it? What do they really want to do? Because, you know, sometimes, you know, so I'm trying to get to know them as a person. And then once they get comfortable like that with me, then I could say, well, how do you think you can help?
What is spin farming and why does it make sense for urban agriculture projects?
Spin farming is called small plot intensive. And it's good because especially in places like South, it's good in urban inner cities because we don't have a lot of land accessible to us. I'm using like 6,000 square feet, which is a standard housing lot, but you can go smaller than that. You can go 500 square feet and you can create income and value from that land by planting compactly. So in essence, there's no gaps in the soil. There's no non-usable soil, and it's all about the soil. You have to have great soil. You have to be really into the regenerative practice of soil and creating healthy soil with a healthy mycelium and healthy microbes in that soil. And then once you get that, then the farming would do itself. We look at rows, they look at rows and they plant in 50-foot rows or 25-foot rows, and each plant that goes in the row is cost at $1 once the seedling goes in the row. And each time you harvest it, then the price goes up. So after that first initial harvest, the successive price would be whatever you're getting wholesale for that product. So if it's a bunch of greens, then it's $3 or whatever. But technically, the price is between $2 and $3 per each harvest of each plant. So then you can come up with a tangible value for a certain plot of land what you're going to make on it at the end of the season. And then once you know that, now you can go out and do whatever, CSA or whatever, and that CSA or community supported agriculture. I remember we had to do the things. So community supported agriculture. So now you can create a CSA outside of that plot of land, have people invest in that CSA in the beginning of the season, knowing that at the end of the year, you're going to have this coming out of it and this amount of products coming out of it. And then you can start creating on these lots, these empty vacant lots, food security initiatives right there based on your own thing. I think that we talked about food security, and I believe that we need to have small urban farms in communities again. Each community should have a small urban farm, be it 2 to 5 acres, but we need to have that as the core foundational foundation of the community's food resources. And then you can support other local farmers and source other things that you need to supply the entire thing. But I think each community, if we use this, and for me, it kind of came from that whole farmscaping thing in Europe, where residents will get together and they'll form the entire front yards and backyards and in a community, and then they'll share the produce amongst each other. Spin farming is just about staying in the ground, and rather than going vertical, using what the ground has and creating the multiple layers within the ground to create income, and that's in essence what it is.
What is fruit, and how are you using it in your latest project?
I got an opportunity to work on the rooftops of Miami Design District. I shouldn't say too much, but anyway, the Miami Design District they're owned by one of these high-end designer companies, and there's a lot of high-end restaurants there. The opportunity to grow on the roof just offered me 2 things. It offered me a new perspective from which to grow. You could grow in the ground, and I'm not into the hydroponics, aquaponics thing. I can do it. I'm not into it. I don't think that's viable. I always believe that to grow healthy, nutritious food, you have to have some soil component, just to maintain that biological whatever that we can't replace. You can't replace soil, because it's like replacing us, right? They say ashes to ashes. We can't replace soil from a process. But it allowed me to look at a different way of growing. I was for COVID, as I moved away from growing in the soil because no one could come out. I was getting into a lot of microgreen growing and stuff like that. One of our partners is a designer and a tech guy, and he brought to me the idea of using this program called Food Resilience Urban Infrastructure Tools. And what that does is it pretty much brings technology to the work I do. For years, I have books and books and books like this, like notes. I'm old school that way. I love my notes, and but I don't do anything with them. I have never compiled them or nothing like that. I have some files that I've done when I found the time, but never compiled what my harvest looks like throughout an entire season and down to the specific nuts and bolts of actually growing food. And that's what we wanted to do this year, was to get into the agriculture and not even the agriculture. I want to move away from that, to get into the science of growing food. I wanted to get away from that label and move to something different. And this allowed me to do that. It allows me to the software I found as a way of allowing me to actually, the 10 years of data that I didn't do, I could probably do it in a year or 2 after I get this figured out, after we get all the kinks figured out. Once we get past the pilot project, then I'll have all my data. And that's what I want. There's no yield data for the crops I grow, right? There's no data on how to grow kale and tomatoes and what you're going to get, what each harvest is worth, and what it takes to create a bunch. You know what I mean? There's none of that data. There's some for like the generic crops like eggplants and certain tomatoes and stuff like that, but none on the specific levels that we grow, like onions. And anyway, so for me, this software allowed me to do that. When I first got into it, I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that software was the future of what I was doing and that it would make my job easier. What he was bringing was more of a computer-based model. So he's creating, we've created an infrastructure of beds on this 3,000 square foot pilot on the rooftops. We have access for 3 years to 60,000 square feet. That's over an acre. That's about an acre and a half. We started our pilot on 3,000 square feet. And we created an infrastructure system using the spin farming model. It was just beds. I think the beds were like 25 foot long. There's about 45 beds on the 21 square foot area. And then, we started breaking it out on bed space. Yeah, it was very funny because in essence, it's like creating a computer game for my farming or creating a farming app for what I do. So everything that I do had to be put on the computer, right? How long are my rows? How wide are they? Where's my irrigation? How many seeds did I plant in each row? How are they going to germinate? And that's the data that we're going to start collecting. So now when I harvest, now we're going to have harvest data. Now, if I have a spin row of kale and it's 25-foot rows, it has two kale plants in each row, right? That's 100 kale plants. How much am I harvesting from each plant? That's the data I'm going to get to know after this. And then these guys on top of that are then going to, I'm actually trying to get the site cleaned up so they can take their picture. They want to take a 360-degree shot of the pitch of the site and then upload it to a VR platform. And then that VR platform is going to allow it to be shared. So now when I work with Kenya, in the next year or two after we do this, the idea is for them and Richmond to mimic what I've done on the roof in their areas, and then for us to be able to upload that as well into the VR platform. And then now you can stay remotely on your computer, and the system is going to monitor the watering, the sunlight, the soil, the nutrients in the soil, the plant growth, and all of that stuff. And then as we harvest, we're adding that data into it as well. But now all of us could look at we could overlay our same system on top of each other from across the country, around the world, and look at the differences in what we're doing and see what is working and what's not working. And then harvest data that we get will be shared too with other farmers and stuff who want to know how to monetize their crops and stuff like that, small farmers and so on, and how to monetize the individual crops, especially the specialty items that we grow for farmers markets and stuff like that. So we're gonna create a 360, we're gonna take a 360 camera and take a full 360 view, including a drone view of the site. Then we're gonna upload that to a virtual reality program. Right, so now it's going to be live on computer, and you can walk around it. You could actually walk through the beds. The idea is that you could actually walk through the beds on the computer, bend down and look at the tomato and look at the plant on the detail level like that. So all of this is going to then create an opportunity for folks in rural communities, folks in community, especially with all you need is access to a cell phone. And the software and the data will be up there where folks can access this data. They can plug in their specifics from their region, their temperature controls, their rainfall and all of that, and then monitor their growth and project their growth out before they actually put the seed in the ground. Reduce food waste, but to increase food security by growing the right amount of food for the right amount of people without creating this excessive waste of food.
What advice would you give to people who want to get involved in building healthier communities through food and health?
My advice is to always, first of all, have conviction in what you're going to do. You have to have conviction of self. When I got out of corporate America, I was done. A lot of my friends too wanted to get out, but they were unwilling to give up the security of a paycheck and to put all of their efforts into themselves. So you have to be willing to do that. Gladly, COVID did that for a lot of people. So there's a lot of people out there who figured out something about themselves. The key is to don't try to work outside of what you don't know. There's so many things. So many of us are so skilled. And I see people keep on doing it. Oh, I got to go back to school. I got to go. No, that's the mentality they taught you. No, you don't have to go back to school to do anything now. And the key is always to have perspective. This is why you have to know yourself. Know who you are, so that way when you meet up with people out there, they're not going to shift your opinion around on where you stand on your topic and your point. But you'll have enough perspective to be able to accept other people's difference in opinions from yours. And you'll understand that, hey, maybe there's many times I found out that the way I was going at something wasn't the right way. And somebody else who completely shouldn't have had the perspective that I thought had a better perspective than me. But if I wasn't willing to listen to the others I was talking, and I was just talking, listening to myself talk, then I was going to be in the same boat. So for me, go out, know what you want to do, know what it is you're going to contribute, not what anybody else could, what you could contribute, and then go meet people and go socialize it around people who have like minds and who or not even like minds, who have like motives and who want to see the same things that you want to see achieved. Go to local organizations and stuff like that, and look to join boards and participate in board membership and so on like that, be it at local universities, be it at your kids' little league game, be it at your kids' school, on your PTA. But these are ways. And once you start creating visibility, everything else is going to come.
What's next?
I mean, you see a lot of kids making stupid mistakes that adults could have prevented them from making. And hopefully that's what Urban GreenWorks does. And the core of what you'll see in the future is you'll see a new Urban GreenWorks ran by young people. We're shifting away from, that's why I'm moving it with all of this global stuff. And I'll probably move to the global arm and do a lot of that. But in terms of Urban GreenWorks itself, I'm moving to this 30 and under model, where everybody who's running it is eventually going to be 30 and under. And as you age out of that, then you probably move into the global if you want to stay with us or do your own thing. But it's going to be young people. And the idea is to train young people. That's why I'm working with the kids and the teenagers, but to train them and then have them be these apprentices that can come in and run the organization. Because we've had our chance and we've allowed it to fall by the wayside. It was like, how are we gonna improve these? We have to put them in the hands of young people who understand that it's their world. And yes, it's not fair, but yeah, we're leaving it up to you. And here are the resources and the knowledge we've compiled over the years. Here's what we know don't work because it's just maintaining the status quo. And let's try some new things. And I think the only people who can really try new things are the young people, because they're the ones who are going to be backs are going to be against the wall. So let's empower them, let's teach them, and let's give them the skills at a young age to lead organizations, to lead Urban GreenWorks. You could be 23 leading Urban GreenWorks. I'll teach you.